Recording in progress.
Brilliant. So it does start recording.
But now you've got to turn the camera on over there, Rylan.
Been sitting for a while, but they're still charged up. The cord is in there though.
Okay. Well, you just wanted me to see my headset, so I thought I'll pull it up.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Just on here. When it comes up.
There we go.
I kind of left everything
Nobody's
looking the
there.
way I have mine.
Take care of this later.
In case you get all these in here.
All right, ready, Corey?
And I think you have it up here too.
Get your flashlight on.
Christine.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a rock concert. though.
Did you?
Yeah.
I heard it was good.
It was good in St. Paul. My
Good.
daughters gave me a Father's Day gift
Yeah.
Very good.
back in Father's Day. I had a choice of
And I
three or
do a
four
split
concerts to go
screen
to.
because there's so much stuff. that we
The one I
do.
chose.
Dr. Hook in the medicine show?
Would you say?
The Eagles.
Oh, the Eagles.
I'd rather see Dr.
Of course, Joe Walsh, you never know about him. He's a character.
Glad this is all recorded for posterity.
Read all of that now.
All right.
The important, only the important things. Who else is not here? Help me out. Kristen and Lori.
Kristen was gonna call in. Her kids are not doing well or sick. Jim wasn't feeling good, but he may call in.
Jeepers.
But we got four of us, so we're
Yes, we
good
do.
to go with the quorum, so.
Okay.
All right, so, agenda's there, there's the highlighted section that was italicized, just, if we get to those things, it wasn't really much, but I definitely want to get to the other A through H, and then in through the rest of them, so. Have a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second, Lizzie.
Say aye.
Aye.
Approve, we have a copy of the September 13 minutes there. The motion for that.
You made it? Did you make it?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I'll second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Melissa's not able to join us, but she did send a report, and Melissa, if you want to comment on that,
Sure.
you should.
So, pull it up here. So Alyssa sent this morning, yesterday, I'm sorry. She does have the checkbook reconciled. She believes that all of the expenses have come through for the show. The regular checkbook register balance is $15,518.61, plus an additional $2,896.48 in the 5K account that is separate. If the committee were to hold back the $7,000 that has been held back in the past for next year's show, we would be left with an approximate balance of $11,000 for donatable funds.
Right.
The one invoice that I have not received and I've requested it is from Christine and Jeff King, and that's for the shirts for the committee. So we still have that and nameplates.
Do you know what the approximate
I'm thinking,
value of that is?
yeah, I'm guessing we should probably at least go maybe 300, I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah. Just,
not super substantial,
no, not super substantial, but those shirts are not cheap.
right?
Mhm.
And I
And those
think
are shirts for the.
for the committee,
For the committee.
The red
okay.
ones.
the new ones.
The new red ones, okay.
Yeah.
And nobody else had any like personal show expense receipts that still need to be turned in?
I think all of
I
those.
got mine in, I know.
I mean, can I charge for all of the rooster wrangling? that we did?
Hourly fee, Fisher would be into that too.
Animal control?
Maybe we'll have a rooster patrol next year.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really the only information that she sent about that. If, I don't know if anybody has any questions, they can follow up with Alyssa.
We just received our American Rescue Plan money. And my Oh, we just got it here about 2 weeks ago, and we can use it for nonprofits. So it's not as restrictive as the CARES funds that we had a year ago. So it's open for nonprofits, so I'm going to propose a resolution in the November meeting for, and we can talk about it too, I guess, what type of, how much funds do we need for, I think we want to make sure it's clear it's for operating expenses as opposed to donations. And so it's all going to be in the mode of operating expenses, so. So it's
So would that be, is that like applicable to like, does it count if, you know, Gold Rush typically holds back $7,000 for operating costs for next year? Is that,
we've gone from 6,000 to 7,000 and 8,000. Is that
What do you think
fair?
would be a good number, Carol?
Usually about 5. That's the very minimum. But that's not, and the reason I say 5 is because we're doing a lot of social media advertising.
So, but what would be an ideal? I guess I should say.
Ideal?
What would be an ideal
Well,
number?
you know, ideal, it would be nice to have that $7,000 because if the bottom fell out like it did this year, you have to figure every month, we have to have a minimum of $1,200 per year just to cover internet. And it was scratching this time for postage and for everything else when we had to take care of stuff. So
We hold water.
I think it'd be nice to have 7.
so somewhere in the vicinity of 7 to 12, 7
Well,
to 10?
Yeah, probably 10 would not, we would probably not have to do 10, but, you know, in past years, I mean, when we did some really first-class advertising, that was in itself $7,000. So, and advertising is not getting any cheaper,
No.
so
Well, something to think about.
Mhm.
I think what we have to look at is with these funds too, if we take what we actually need for operational funds, and if we take our money and donate it, then are we still going to support National Night Out and fireworks? Those are the things that we have to assess too. You know, if we take the money that we have left over and put it toward that, and then take this other money for operational money, I don't know if that's how it works, but
That was, I guess, yeah, that's what I was getting at when I asked the
Yeah.
question.
yeah.
Can it be applied to money that we would typically withhold? Can we use those funds for that so that our donatable figure goes up?
Yeah.
That's what my thought was.
I propose, and we'll work with the attorney for the resolution, but the language in the resolution would be something to the fact that COVID impacted us not having to have our local Gold Rush event in 2020. And so this helps offset the operational expenses that we can use towards 2023.
Mhm.
Well, realistically, we don't have enough money to do our basic donations like the Civil Air Patrol and some of those things, and keep money back and still be supportive of National Night Out and fireworks. So we
Yeah, we
have
have
to have some money coming in somewhere if we intend to do all of that yet.
so to hear 7,000.
That's
If
nice,
you,
That's a-
but I feel like that's a minimum number,
yeah.
because if we do want to go back to increasing our print advertising, which, okay, doesn't need, you know, maybe we don't spend 5,000, but I mean, if we want to, we did no print advertising this
No,
year.
and we heard about it.
Yes, we did. There was a lot of,
And I-
I've heard from several people in Iowa that were like, we got nothing.
No, and there was nothing.
Right, and so unless they were already following us on Facebook or we reached them digitally, our outreach was very, very small in comparison to previous years. We did what we could. I think I'm impressed with the amount of people we did reach. That's all we had to work with. I'd be much more comfortable with going for 10 so that we can verify as a committee that we can do some print advertising and that we're not scraping by next year, especially if we have to talk about if there's any cost involved with us having to relocate some of these spaces too. There's maybe costs that we don't see right now.
Sure.
It could be very well an
Yeah.
additional mailing, without a doubt, I think.
We have $80,000 for the city this year, and we'll get the balance, the other 80,000 a year from now, and we need to use that by December of 2024. So we already have some things in the city that we talked about using the American Rescue Plan, and part of it's for water infrastructure. We did do some improvements on our wells, with ventilation in the chemical rooms. So we also talked about using some of the funds for every so many years we pull a well for inspection. So we alternate between the two wells. So we do have some expenditures out there. So I'm not saying 10,000 is a good number, but I think that's, if we can do something a little bit less, I think that'd be good too, just because we have all these other, and I also like to do something for, this council would do something for the food bank as well, with them being nonprofit too. So I don't know what their needs are right now, and it's a conversation I'll need to have with Lance or.
Lance, Geese's too, Lance and the Geese's would be able to, food banks are actually in a really good
Yeah,
position
I'm
right
sorry,
now.
yes, that's Jeff and Amy.
Jeff and Jess,
Jeff.
yeah, but the food banks are actually in a really good position
Mhm.
currently.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean there can't be improvements and can't be things
Sure.
that they could use.
Yeah.
It might not be food, but it might be improvements within the,
Just facilities.
The
or
facility.
something,
Mhm.
Coolers or whatever the case may be.
Well, hypothetically, even if we took 10 grand, like Melissa suggested, and used 7 of it and dedicated 3 as a backup reserve.
Right,
A lot like Marigold Days does that. They have like 2 or 3 CDs equivalent to $3,000. That's their ace in the hole,
Mhm.
emergency funds.
right? So they aren't caught flapping in the
Yeah.
winds.
All right.
And we didn't do as much with the car show as what we could have done, maybe for advertising. Would have been fun to have some shirts, do some different things.
Well, there was definitely not money in the budget this year, and it was something new for Corey and definitely something new for myself, and we know exactly what needs to change for next year, because it was a bit chaotic. And with not a whole lot of work, there's ways that we can streamline and make that a lot better.
I thought it went great.
I thought it went, I do think it went
It
great,
did.
but
Outside in.
I'm saying when you're talking about it being more profitable,
Yeah.
there are definitely things that we can do to amp that up, and make that, make it more worth it for those people that want to come. There's all sorts of stuff that we
Yeah,
can do,
make it a little classier.
adjust and do, but it did, the feedback on the car show was awesome,
Mhm.
super awesome. Yep.
Well,
So you're gonna take this to, bring this back to the November meeting here and then take it to council? Is that what you're saying? In November?
I hope to take it to council in the November meeting.
In the November.
Is that
meeting.
before our meeting or after?
Yeah. Well, not always. I should look.
It's November the 16th and our.
Also,
meeting-
our meeting would be first.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll have a meeting before, so. But we can think about it. We can come back and discuss at the November meeting. We still have time to draw a resolution between this meeting and. Well, we got 2 days technically. Because they like to have it varies from month to month, but Christine is just saying something here. She's got a sinus headache, didn't sleep much last night. This is Christine speaking. She's over here tonight.
Tell her she's excused. Go to bed, honey.
Um, The meeting's November the 16th. And, well, November 8th is our meeting, but we need to have stuff into city staff by the 9th. Tuesday noon, so we'll just have the resolution drawn up for 10,000. And the council can discuss it. And see if we can stay there or whatever wishes are.
Okay.
All right? And that'd be for operational expenses. Okay, good. All right. Anything else on the treasurer's report? Discuss. All right. Next item is just the Gold Rush event, and probably the biggest discussion is take the easy one first here. The construction interfere with Gold Rush 2022, and Karen and I talked about this, and so the way we see this playing out is that once we award the bids, which will probably be I don't think it's going to be next Tuesday night, but it'll probably be at the November 16th meeting. After that, there will be a pre-construction meeting where we sit down and talk to the contractors. And at that point, whenever we have that, that's probably when we'll get some type of schedule of where they plan to start both the treatment plant, which is pretty much the treatment plant, but also the north and south contracts for the west side, this side. That's something that Joe hasn't, the contractor hasn't, it wasn't necessary for them to provide it for the bid. That's why we haven't seen it yet. So there is something that we would expect to see at the pre-construction meeting. So hopefully that after sometime after the 16th and the 1st of December, we hope we have that first, at least before December meeting for sure. We find out about their schedule, where they're going to start, that aspect.
So even regardless though where they're gonna start, we can expect to see probably some interruption with traffic for Gold Rush next summer, either whether it's on north end, south end, is traffic coming in from the south end, even 52 exit ramp, all that kind of stuff. So we can expect to see some,
Technically,
probably.
Minnesota Avenue isn't going to be torn up.
Okay,
They may go underneath it several places or some open trenches, but the contract reads that there's no construction work the week of Gold Rush. So Gold Rush comes, the contractors shut down and they won't be able to work that week from the Monday before Gold Rush through Sunday. So that's a good thing. And it's just a matter of what streets are torn up. And there's 4 miles of new streets that's in the new contract that are being affected by this, both this side and for the whole project. So, and here's a map over on this side here. You can see where some of these streets pretty much is, if you look at downtown, here's Minnesota Avenue, coming across the East and West Center Street, 2nd Avenue, First Avenue, 2nd Avenue. Here's a street here where, so it's all around this. This is down through an alley with the others. So this is really the big question mark. And that's what hopefully we'll find out.
Okay.
But I'm guessing when they pave streets, and this is a question for Joe, is that did they wait and pave all the streets, or they pave big sections at a time versus coming in and doing one at a time, which I don't think they probably would, so. At the same time, as soon as these lines are as soon as these infrastructure lines are in the streets, people can start connecting to them as well, but to the point of, that's up to the residents when they start connecting them.
so we will still have
It's not
some
operational, too.
possible unknown construction that's scheduled by property owners that we may not have control over as well.
Right. Now, it's going to be, that would affect our right of ways. Mostly on the outside.
And this is why I think we should really concentrate on consolidating down to as much city property as we can for 2022.
I agree.
So we'll hopefully hear more about that in maybe not November, but the December meeting about the construction schedule. Okay. We talked about a few of the takeaways. Anything else to add from Gold Rush, or we think we've hit the big items and those in September minutes? Otherwise, we can take it to the next issue, and this is the sheet that Carol and I and Joanne sat down and kind of broke out the different job responsibilities that Carol has been involved with as event coordinator. So we're looking at for discussion, but we think there's the event coordinator is going to take on just the perspective of working with the computer and the vendors. And working in the trailer at the car show, at the Gold Rush event. The logistics coordinator, this is where I think there's 18 items that we think we've covered all of them, that were, a lot of these are just letter writing out to different people, to the different contractors. and getting feedback, confirmations. The VFW, it's a conversation with the fire department and the VFW, the sheriff contract, table rentals. We work with the People's Energy because we need to plan food vendors where the different meter sizes and outlets are on along Minnesota Avenue. Waste management with the dumpsters, just having people in towing the right, just letter saying ATM with first responders, let's just make sure there is one here. Typically it is, it's just an email, but the gathering permits, food permits, letters to food vendors, that requires some time and direction to follow up. Letter to our insurance company, and there's a permit. And those are the ones that I know that I interfaced with a lot of them as well. Then we looked at the committee responsibilities, and we're kind of doing this already, is that we, the 5K, social car show, volunteer, Sunday reception, we've kind of started divvying those up with responsibilities already.
I wanted to just mention that I think the 5K, the race and the social media marketing website, that shouldn't be the same person, which is now me.
Mhm,
I'd like to see that be two different people
mhm.
going forward.
Now, you've indicated your preference to maybe do something different than the 5K. Are you thinking
Honestly,
that?
I don't care, I kind of wanted to talk to Kristen. Seems to be super, super savvy about social media and websites and everything. I wouldn't mind keeping one. It wouldn't matter to me, but there's probably somebody that's better at website stuff. If you took a look at the website right now, you'd probably see why I'm saying this, because I've been battling that thing. Then I went on vacation and the footer on the front head page, on the main page is my current nemesis. So it's probably an easy fix if I knew what I was doing, but I don't. And if someone else does, then I'd gladly hand it over.
Okay,
So anyway, no, I don't care. I just don't think it should be the same. And they're very different. Like, well, I don't know, they're not very different. You kind of have to deal with the 5K pretty early in the year too. And then social media is all year round, of course.
sure.
And the same with the website. So it doesn't matter to me which one I would do. I just don't think it should be the same person.
I have some comments. I will try not to ramble. When I opened this up and looked at this morning, my immediate couple of questions were, I love that we're going to try to kind of break down and separate and or delegate some of these things. So here's my thought process. I am interested in helping more. I am interested in doing some of these things. I'm curious if we're going to break it down and or are we going to revisit then how the salary that is set aside for the position, can we make that less? And or is that what your thought process is as breaking this down? Secondary to that, and when I first looked at this, I'm thinking we can break this down way more. I think this can be spread out way more. Just looking at the bottom, 5K, kids 5K, social marketing, Facebook website, those first two things, basically, like Dana said, she's been doing almost all that this year. Car show was Corey and me, volunteers was Christine and me, and the Sunday reception was me. And I heard several, which I'm totally fine with. I wanted all those tasks and they were very manageable. I don't feel like that was too much for me. But I also think that, I was new just like a lot of other people. It wasn't necessarily rocket science. And as far as the volunteer stuff and volunteer coordinator, we had so much help with Joanne, and Christine got all of the online, like the sign up genius done. That's going to be a fairly simple process going forward now that all that legwork is done. And I know that there were a lot of people who were like up until, the couple weeks leading up to the show and the show, they didn't have really much for duties throughout the year. So, I mean, even if you were just to say, you do porta potties and ice, you do, I mean, even if it's just 2 things. If we were to spread it out and a little bit more. I think this is very doable with the 9 people that we have, especially the people that have already done it. A lot of information can be had from you and what Carol already has on file and things that Joanne's been involved, like all of this stuff she's been involved with for so long. I really think we could break this out and delegate way more of this logistics coordinator thing into more committee member responsibility stuff. That's my opinion.
No, those are some of my original thoughts as well, but then it takes a lot of coordination and follow through
And maybe the
that's
logistics
fine.
coordinator person is still like an overseer and double checks with that person and checks off the boxes to make sure they're done or
Mhm.
helps them get information, but isn't necessarily get sent into the thick of that.
So Ryland had mentioned this a while ago, and the only thing I had said when I thought of what you, because I thought, when you just said that, my only thought is, we change every 2 years, no matter what. Even if you stay and you stay, me and Lizzie, and even, and we can change every 2 years, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's so there's not, and you never know who you're gonna get as far as like how involved they're gonna be.
I think it would
So,
help to also,
That's true.
like outline which tasks can be. Like I don't know how to explain this, like the breakdown of how the work needs to get done. Is it something you can plan for ahead of time and something you can do independently? You know, without having, like I could have done at 9 PM and like the hour that I had at the end of the day to do something. Or is it, you know, maybe somewhere, something where you have to be somewhere physically? That might also help to coordinate the tasks effectively.
Exactly, because I think a lot of these too, like Carol was saying, it's letter writing or email correspondence or whatever to do some of this stuff. I don't think it matters if you do it on a Saturday or at 9. You know, you don't need to be here for that. You don't need the special software on the computer for that. You don't, so I think it's a lot of these things would be very flexible, but you're right, we probably should organize them into, you know, and also with, I mean, there's like what, 9 or 10 months, you know, like, it's not like you have to work on this every day or every
Right.
weekend or every, you know, even if you're like, okay,
a lot
this
of
is
our-
the deadline that we did it last year.
I like your idea of like the somebody that's there to check off and make sure. Cause
Yeah.
that person could at least be the constant.
Mhm.
Cause I think there needs to be a cause Carol's been the constant. That's the fear I have, that like something will just get dropped because there hasn't, you know what I mean?
It's
Cause
gotta
we
be
are,
someone who tells me, Lizzie, did you follow up at 9 PM about those porta potties? And if I didn't do it, and, you know, bad for me, but,
yeah,
that's agreed.
That's exactly what did happen. And that's why it ended up being
all
more.
on you, sure.
And there was a lot, I think the officers on the committee, they really have been incredibly helpful.
Almost like internal and external work, like
Yeah.
the internal work would be the logistics to a degree, and the external facing work is kind of that event coordinator business.
I think one of the biggest challenges when we spread things out, and it's not impossible in today's world, is that we are going to have to keep an electronic copy and somebody's going to have to keep track of all of that. So we actually, it's going to be that person that does the check mark, because I can't tell you the number of times you keep going back. Did it really, I mean, that's what happened to me. Did it really happen? Did Joe Blow really contact the signs?
And if
So
it didn't go from your email, you don't have the receipt
I
of
don't
it,
have
you
it,
don't
and I
know.
don't have any documentation.
I see
So I mean,
that.
documentation to me is critical.
Mhm.
And it can be done. But it has to be, yeah.
Maybe it has to be done from an email, like what you did with the volunteer email. Do you know what I mean? So that there's more than, so that we have access to it. I don't know.
I'll have to think about more
So it's
about that, because
past-
that's really true. The documentation's gonna get all messy and it's gonna be
It
everywhere.
gets, that's exactly what happened, Melissa. Documentation got messed up and nobody knew what was doing. And as you said, every time there's a rotation, somebody says, well, Yeah, I'm gonna be on the Gold Rush Committee and,
Because there's nobody, you know what I mean? They haven't stuck around.
yeah.
Mhm.
and it's-
Well, and I guess that's another place where I was coming from with it. I wonder, not just for the turnover because of city council, like appointed city council people and how that changes, but just the turnover in the committee of volunteers and whatnot.
Yeah.
You know, if they felt like they were overwhelmed or they've been doing it forever, maybe they're done. Maybe for whatever reasons. My initial thought was, oh, if we spread this out and everybody had like 2 duties,
It wouldn't be.
it wouldn't be so overwhelming
Yeah.
and people might stay on the committee longer. Because it would be less of an investment of time for those certain people, but everyone
all of
else's
this-
points make sense as
but-
well.
And because all of this has never been a committee member, any committee member's job. It's
Right.
always been Carol's.
Right.
So then you're adding,
Right. Right.
Probably
In the
15, 20,
past-
yeah.
Initial, and I followed up with a lot of it, but that's just.
Yeah.
But in the past, you know, way back in the day, we had like a gold shirt. Well, we had 3 gold shirt members versus the red shirt members. And one was like the, I don't know, the
Chair.
president and then the chair, okay.
Mhm.
The chair, the co-chair, and then like the outgoing chair. And between those 3 individuals, they worked with Carol to make sure that all this was done. And a lot of these duties were like assigned to those 3 because they knew everything that needed to be done.
So instead of mass spreading it out, you can maybe divide it
Consolidate
between 2 or 3
And then
people.
those chairs, they were assigned that title, for a year or 2. Yep, and then they just kind of rotated, you know.
They
That's
made sure it
interesting too.
happened at the show, but,
Yeah.
but the responsibility was still.
Yours,
back
yes.
Doing the initial contact.
Carol,
Yeah,
and-
that part of it.
did you go away from it because that didn't work?
No, we're fine.
It did.
We're fine.
But eventually those people just moved and then the newbies, it just kind of didn't pick
Yeah.
up again.
And then there was no chairperson anymore, or there was no gold shirts,
Okay.
you know, like assigned.
Okay.
Yeah.
It really worked. I mean, part of it was, there was a time when it was a good old boys club and there was like one person that was chair for years and years and years. And people were resentful because it was the same face all the time. So we wanted to rotate it through, like, you know, like, kind of like you have a vice mayor. Well, that vice mayor would move up
Right.
and do that, but we've never had anybody stick around long enough to do it. And sometimes they just say, well, I don't want to do that. It's too
Yeah.
much work. And it is a lot of work.
And
Ryland worked his tail end off.
And people should be, you know, I mean, like Lizzie said, that's a good point. It depends on what kind of time people actually have
Yeah,
available to invest in it. But I like that idea too. I mean, if you can pick 2 or 3 people that are like, I would do 2 or 3 things. Well, 2 or 3 things that's a lot of things to take off of someone else's plate.
yeah.
That's plenty. Okay.
So
Interesting.
the other thought for discussion is that we would take the current salary, the 9,500, and we would split that between event coordinator, which for example could be maybe $7,000 as a discussion point. And then if there is somebody that's interested in doing everything, kind of goes against about what we're talking about here, but the point is that we could take the logistics coordinator and pay them the 2,500 to do everything. And the event coordinator takes care of just the computer, and this other person who's, I don't think we have names for anybody of these here for sure, well, outside of Joanne from the event coordinator. So,
Really?
so if there's anybody that would be interested in doing that,
I don't know if we knew that. Did I know that? I didn't know that.
I'm glad that you're interested in that part, because that's the part, that's the little section of it I don't want to do. I love being with the people. I want to be on the go. I want to,
Right.
Yeah,
I am just a hands-on person.
event coordinator sits behind the computer.
Right, and that
all
would
the
be
time.
so hard for me.
Yeah.
That would just be so hard for me. This other stuff, logistic stuff, I'm all about that. That's fine with, I mean, I will do that. The part that you have listed in the event coordinator was the part that was keeping me on the sidelines, to be honest.
Mhm.
So,
so that's one thought, you know, if we don't want to, if committee members don't have the time to do those 4 or 5 different,
and or if I take on that position and there's a couple of people who are like, hey, can I take anything off your plate? Great.
sure.
Well, the logistics.
You know, if I were that
I can just say
coordinator,
from personal experience, even if you had people doing it you still.
Still
are
want to
gonna-
check, yeah.
You still are gonna, everything's gonna funnel through you. And that's critical to a successful show. You know,
And maybe
can-
some of these things,
can you
because I
imagine
haven't,
showing up, and not having an
Right.
ATM?
and maybe some of these things, because I haven't done them before, are less time consuming than they appear to be on paper,
Yeah,
you know?
it's just, it's providing a paper trail, so everybody, because, you know, next year, I mean, Ryland will start, probably still be our chair next year, but when a new chair comes in,
like, what?
it's like, oh my gosh.
Well,
You know,
and I was
yeah.
gonna say, you do a lot, like you said, you followed up with a lot of these things, so the
Yeah.
logistics coordinator would work with the chair closely. And of course, you're gonna be around to help this year, right? Carol, yeah, and so, yeah,
So the,
okay.
and I'm, you know, my time, because I'm retired, I have the time to do it. People that are working 40 hours a week, that's very difficult, except if you do it on the weekends or something like that, so.
It's not
Like
like
when
you,
Kevin was doing it, he worked this, I mean, that was hard. That was
it's not
really
like you
hard
don't have
because he
other
was
things on
working
your
a
plate
full-time
either.
job.
You're the mayor and you have city council stuff going on.
Busy time,
Here's the other catch. If you took that logistics coordinating job, that would be a paid position and you could no longer be on the committee. So that's the other part. Like Joanne's not on the committee, I'm not on the committee, so we're going to have to be looking for another new person. So that's the other side of the point, which is not the end of the world. It's
Or she
doable.
could just remain
So
on the
could they-
committee and volunteer to do the.
But then it
those
wouldn't be a paid,
tasks.
then it wouldn't be a paid
Right.
position. Yeah. And it's a lot of work. So I mean, I think there should be some money involved in it for you. Personally,
Not that the committee members couldn't help. They would just, I don't want to say, well, I guess I will say.
How
they
does
would
that-
report to the logistics coordinator. They could still assist the coordinator, but the coordinator is really responsible for making sure everything is in place.
So that's an interesting thought though, because then how does that, if I can no longer be a committee member, that does affect my voting rights and such.
it does, you know, both.
So that's maybe something I should think about and come back in November with.
Yeah, we're.
Because there are
It's all
things
for
about,
discussion.
yep, because there are things about, yeah, I just don't maybe super want to commit right now, because maybe there are some logistics I want to think about before. Because there are some things I enjoy about being a committee member.
Well, and I think we're kind of on a cusp of making some critical changes maybe, and it's important to have some good input, you know?
Could also consider hiring a virtual assistant to do some of this.
You know,
If we had money, we certainly
Right.
could.
well, nothing is gonna fall apart at the seams. Joanne and I have a good working relationship, and we're going to make sure it all works at this point. So you take some time and think about it, and we'll see which way the wind blows coming in.
I just want to compare what what that means if I'm not a committee member.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get a golf cart during Gold Rush.
I can bring one of those.
Yes, you
That's-
would, you guys.
That's not gonna
would.
kill me.
Yeah, you didn't get
This
it.
was the first year I had one.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Really?
Since
Like
I was
we-
no longer on the committee.
Like
yeah.
we get a golf cart, I get a golf cart, but I usually use mine for rental,
Oh,
Right.
to put it out, but
Well, Melissa needs one. She's gonna go talk to people.
well, that's what I'm saying. I'm way too high strung. I need to be like,
Right.
yeah.
Out
But see, I
and
don't
moving.
know, that could be talked about though, because I think the logistics coordinator would need a golf cart to go check on all of these
Yes,
things.
you would need it.
Do you know what I mean?
They
Like,
would have, just like
Yeah.
Joanne had a cart and I had a cart. That's, yeah, you
Yeah.
would get a
Like
cart.
I said, this was the first year that I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that,
and it is kind of important to me, like I like
Yeah.
representing Gold Rush. Like I want to be a representative of Gold Rush.
mhm.
If I'm not on the committee, am I technically
Well,
still that?
I
Well-
think that you two, nobody would ever look at Joanne and Carol and be like,
As not a member.
right,
Right.
right. So I don't think you would, I mean, you still have your red shirt, you.
Yeah.
But it would, you're right, the voting rights, the voting. would
I'll sit
be-
to- Yep, I'll think about it.
Okay. So it's just, we're talking about all the options, so we would, that's an option that would be, those would be two paid positions and.
And the other part of it is that we talked about if we had our committee people do more of this, is there any way that we could decrease that salary?
Right,
Originally, we brought, the salary was at 7,000. And then when all of this started mushroom, you know, it started to grow, but, you know, 7,000 is a good salary. But it's not enough if they're doing all of this. But if-
separate, yeah.
But if we could do some of this volunteers, like, you know, years ago, I did the advertising. That was a huge job, all the print advertising, and that was not a paid position. So I mean, it can
Maybe
be,
there are some of these things
it can
in
be
this
done.
list that can be broken out, but
Yeah.
not necessarily more of the function, the day-to-day functional things.
yeah,
Like you said, advertising, maybe that can be just someone else,
that
just
is
the
someone else.
advertising.
Yeah, that could be a solo thing.
That's why, that was the one sentence that was in the top line there of social media. Would not interact.
Well, and if the person, whoever it is doing that, the promotions and the advertising, maybe that's the person that takes over the Facebook or some of the website stuff. That would make sense to have that person doing all the same thing, because they'd have the same ads, the same
There would
graphics, the
be.
same cut and
Yeah.
paste, the same. So it's
Yeah.
like the person that's doing the print ads should also be doing the online stuff, to
And-
me.
I would
That makes
say,
sense.
like, I've told Rylan this before. I don't think, I don't know of anybody else, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but what I do with the social media and the website, I don't know who else would do that for free.
I would, but not all this other stuff then.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of my.
But
hang-up.
this also is because now I've been doing it for three years.
Yep.
And it's
True.
work, because I started doing it before I was even on the committee. helping
Well,
out
and
with
it's
it.
not just putting stuff out there, it's answering questions and replying to the comments and the messages and
Right.
it's more than what people think it is.
Oh, yeah,
It's not
for
like just
sure.
send
I'm
something
like
out there
searching
once a
for
week.
people's,
Right.
trying to
Who's the
help
lady
people
that
find
had the blue
Yes,
vase?
yes,
Oh,
all
let me
year
find
long.
that for you.
all year long, which is fine. It's fun, but if
It's
you
more
had,
than we-
like, if you work full-time, and I'm going to probably be heading back to the workforce soon and on city council, these are just not things, like you pay, usually that's what you pay a virtual assistant for, like you were saying, like this, you know what I mean, you can. So I do want to just put that out there, that that is not something that probably a lot of shows or whatever get away with volunteers doing.
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, usually somebody that is in the field of social or advertising, they do it full time, and then to ask them to do it in addition to that, that takes, it probably would have to be a paid position or an
Some
hourly
people don't.
position.
Who work in the field really like the opportunity to volunteer and donate hours to that. It's also worth reaching out to some of the, like the digital agencies in town and telling them what we need, and some of them do pro bono work. Maybe they have the hours for that. I know mine did when I was working agency side, and they might even have interns, for the summer, and this would be a great job for an intern.
In fact, we did talk, Carol and I talked to one or two companies about doing intern work or pro bono, but it was just turned to be cost prohibitive for us to have that much money to support that type of activity.
Well, and the other problem with that is, again, the constant turnover of our own, and then they would turn over just because they're an intern. So
Yep.
they would be turning over, and then if nobody knew how to run the website. So for instance, we did hire a virtual assistant before the pandemic. And then she did a great job, but she changed the website and she changed so much of it that then when we could no longer afford to pay her and I had to go back to doing it, I had to completely restart because I couldn't use what I didn't know how to use what she was using. So you run into those problems.
So it might be a mix too. I think it's also helpful to think about it in terms of what you're, like the paid advertising component, and maybe separate from the ongoing, like the day-to-day management of people sending inquiries and questions about, when is this, and do you remember the blue vase people and it kind of helps to put those, extract those two pieces apart. They could.
Mhm.
Right, and I just have been.
That's a lot.
It is, and it's new, because we like, when I came on to the committee, there wasn't much for social media at all, so I was like, we got to do social media, and then, you know what I mean, and it's been working.
That's bigger than the website.
The right idea would be to
It is.
reach out to the local universities and see if they, if there's, like advertising or PR programs, communications programs. And they have anyone who'd want to do the work for their portfolio or something like that.
And this was a school? so
Yeah, could reach out to, like,
RCTC? or-
yeah, RCTC or Winona, University.
No, it seemed like did we talk to them? I don't remember.
We did that, when I first started, we had done some of that.
To find an intern or, but then it gets back to the turnover even with that is gonna.
It's so tricky, even we did, and we had a person before I started that was running the website too.
Wasn't John
John, yeah.
Rask? Oh, John, yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that having one person running the website is totally different than the knowledge that that same person would need to run the Facebook. Because with the Facebook, when people are asking show specific questions, an intern or someone else is not gonna
We can't
know
answer that.
the answers to that. And so then you're gonna end up having one of us or a third party, they're gonna be calling all the time. So
I know.
website, I think it makes sense, but I don't know that that's like a full-time.
It's not, and it literally would be in so much better hands for somebody that knew what they were doing, because it's really only needs to be changed every so often.
Yeah.
Like someone needs to change it.
Is it
once a-
WordPress?
Yes.
Oh, I can do that.
Oh, I need your help with the footer.
Okay.
Um,
If it's WordPress, I can do that.
because it is not, and it's set up, it's fine, it's good, but there's things when you update it and then, oh God, like I said. Just that.
We'll have to see what version it is too.
So the WordPress is,
WordPress is the host of the website.
right, but that's what we're using today.
If that's what we're
We're just-
using, I have experience with that. I can help with
It's in a
that.
position now, it needs more expertise to make it happen. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I'm making it happen, it's just that it's,
It's time consuming. It
it
doesn't
is,
need
and
to be
it
what it
doesn't
is.
need to be. There's people out there with skills that I don't have,
Definitely.
probably sitting at this
Definitely.
table that,
Like Melissa.
like Melissa.
Except they keep on raising my hand for every darn thing that's on
I
the
know.
list. That's my problem. You know, that's the other problem. I gotta figure out, you know, how much can I actually do? Because I don't know what I'm gonna be
Mhm.
doing.
But I
next
think
summer
that's
either.
where, yeah, please give it some thought, you know,
Yep.
that's where the. You know, I think there's opportunities to kind of pick and choose what the logistics operator coordinator can do.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
and at the same time, we as committee members need to pick up some of the responsibility too.
Mhm.
I think that's a given.
I'll just kind of revisit the list and maybe I'll have a list of some extra questions next time.
And maybe Christine and Kristen and Jim, I
Right.
think they're the three missing tonight, so.
Lori?
Okay, Maureen.
All right, well, good discussion. Let's continue the dialogue and we'll circle back around.
Can I just,
really am
take-
just more,
can I
very
just
concerned about
interrupt
the
one thing?
construction.
Are we all okay with Joanne now getting signed on to the bank and getting some of that stuff,
Yes.
getting the wheels turning for
I make a
that?
motion that we approve Joanne to be the co-signer, be one of the two signers for the checkbook
Yeah.
I'll second.
and the event coordinator.
Okay, I was gonna ask that.
I don't think we need to change bylaws or anything. It's
No,
still
we
intact.
don't. I,
If we
we'll
decide to
put, we'll
go
put
with
Jo,
logistics
we'll put
coordinator.
Joanne on as a signer.
Okay.
And then we'll get a new credit card made
Right.
with that. And when we come time to get the insurance, we'll add her for the bond.
Yep.
Um,
Get bonded.
And I think that's, a lot of that won't change for
More
this
stuff or
year.
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but we'll just start to get those wheels moving, you know, and get that done, so. And
Thanks for doing that.
Thank you,
Yes.
Joanne.
Thanks,
We're up there.
Joanne.
I'm still there. Yeah. And just to reassure the committee, we are going to work together till we get all of this other stuff figured out. We will, things start to roll right away in January.
Mhm.
Is started putting things out, and we are going to start to roll. We'll start to do the things that we normally would do, and Joanne and I will work together, and I'll probably pick up some of this logistic stuff till we all get it figured out, because I'd rather have it follow through and we do it well.
Yeah.
And when somebody does pick up, then we know, right, there's nothing that's gonna fall between the cracks.
Mhm.
So,
Sounds good.
Excellent, good news.
All right, let's just jump down to N. We talked about a budget advertising for 2022. Visit back, have we
Yeah,
come up with a figure or something we can
no,
discuss? some thoughts?
because I want to talk about this further, if it should be one figure for print and social media. I guess, because what I would love to be able to do is, like, instead of coming to the committee, who's ever got this job of the social marketing, whatever, and the immediate logistics, I don't know, they get a certain amount of money to use. And then they don't have to come to the committee to say, hey, can I put this much into
absolutely,
Facebook?
absolutely.
So that's kind of what, we don't have to pick a number now at all. That's because that's more toward. But like when you're advertising for the 5K in the car show and the show itself, it's nice to be able to push that out and it works. I think
I
you
think
have-
what we'll
So
ask.
I don't have it with me, but I can bring that to the
A
next
background
meeting.
of what you spent this
Yep.
year.
I'll
Okay.
bring it to the next
Alyssa,
meeting.
Yeah, and we would know how much we've spent on that this year, and then we can ask Alyssa on a good year, what did we spend?
Mm.
And then we'll determine our budget at that point.
Yeah, I think that it would be super helpful, then you just know what
So
you
we need
have.
Alyssa to pull some of that information.
Well, I'm ballparking it about what I did spend, but some of those things,
Well, and then we did postcards
Yeah.
and flyers, and so I think we should include all of that in.
absolutely,
in the-
that's the advertising.
Right,
Yeah.
and we should have a number, and then whoever's on that little subcommittee, maybe, I don't know what we do with that, but whoever, then
And so
they're,
that's the number. And if they need more, then you come to the committee and say it wasn't enough, I need more.
right.
So are we looking at just for discussion, we're looking at $1,000 figure at the subcommittee, or is it $500 or?
Probably more like $5,000 if you were gonna do print, social, and the whole 9 yards in print. Because it's expensive.
It is, I'm just,
Yeah.
want to make sure we don't
Yeah.
abuse it either,
No,
because once that's gone, you come back to committee and say, well,
I don't, yeah.
I think we need.
Yeah.
Well,
Now
you
we
could
need to have
break it, you
control,
could break
we
it
need to have
down,
ideas.
like, here's what we're gonna use for social media this year, here's what you use for, print flyers,
Yes.
postcards, here's what you use for advertising in.
And Alyssa can pull probably all of that out and give us
Yes.
a really good ballpark.
Right,
Mhm.
And
Just
then
as a
pull-
baseline.
And pull out what our costs were for advertising in 2019 for the print.
So we just need a category
Yep.
breakdown, but
yep,
Yeah,
To
and then we can
continue this
determine
discussion.
a bigger figure, but I'm guessing it would probably be pushing $5,000 for everything.
so Carol, what year could we go back to where it was more normal advertising numbers for you? For not Facebook advertising, not the postcard advertising, but for your print advertising? What year should we ask Melissa or Alyssa to look back at?
In the checkbook, everything is even like when we did the flyers, the booklets, everything's pulled out under advertising.
Okay,
So I think if she pulled out the advertising for 2018 and 19, I had started to pull back a little bit because the revenue had not been as
Mhm.
great. And the revenue is not going to be as great, so I think, we aren't gonna get
it's 17
crazy.
or 18, yeah.
Right,
okay,
Which now that we're talking about this number, if you compare that to where our profit is right now, that's a very substantial chunk of what we have to work with for next year.
it is. And we're
Again.
gonna have to raise our lot prices. Yep. That's another big thing for discussion. So I guess that might ask Alyssa too, what would her projected what you would, recommend for a projection for an increase based on our, if we have I don't know, what do you think? We have 15% increase of expenses this year? Would that,
Some of those expenses you sent out were whoppers,
yeah, they were compared to what we,
like sheriff's was huge and
Between the ice and the sheriffs and
yeah, porta potties.
porta potty doesn't.
Yeah,
That's so stupid.
so, but just say, I mean, that's what we're going to have to go on for an increase in lot rent. Probably. And if we pull those lots off of the church, we won't have to be paying
Yes.
that kind of money too. That'll give us another $2,500
Yes.
bucks.
Is
So
that check been cashed?
I don't know. Alyssa knows
Both of them, I
that,
should say.
yeah. I can check in the checkbook though. I just sent you, yeah, let me just check and see. That's a good question. I can't tell you that.
Right. Okay, so we'll come back with more information about the advertising budget and all that above. Okay. The lot statistics vendor count, I had 200 vendors, I'm not sure. The one thing I think I don't think I mentioned it,
They cashed both of them.
was that
They cashed both of them.
they had. Okay. So, couple things real quick. Arctic ice. They've been, the previous gentleman that worked with our ice back in 2019 and beyond, or before that, he always gave us credit for the ice. And for now, but he wasn't supposed to be doing that. So we don't know what he was doing with the ice, if he threw it away or resold it, whatever, but, so we didn't get any credit for the returned ice that we didn't use this year. So that's why the bill is so high at $19.77, but that includes a $250 merchandiser fee. So we know next year,
how many bags did we have left over?
well, I didn't,
They didn't have a
Okay, but
count.
there was
They didn't
no-
provide us a count. Yeah.
we thought we were getting credit, so we really didn't.
Didn't check because we didn't know that's how
I
it
mean,
was
I
gonna
can
be done.
visualize what we had. We probably had 80, 90 bags left, I'm guessing.
So I'm curious if in advance of next year, if that's gonna continue to be an issue for ice, whoever's doing ice, whoever, for whatever. We talk about what we do with the overage of ice. Does the fire department wanna buy some? Do the local, like Tilly's, the gas
So what we're
stations, do
proposing is that.
they wanna buy our overage of our bags at a discounted rate or something? I don't know if they can or not.
I don't know if they
So-
could either because of the health issues. I think we buy, Ryland and I talked about it briefly. I think we buy the minimum of what we use this year. And we go down to Casey's and just buy it because he always, Arctic Ice stocks extra at Casey's.
You know, and it's gonna be, that's true. But it is also gonna be difficult to kind of gauge how much ice we're gonna go through because that's all weather dependent.
It's all weather dependent.
You know, this
Well, I
year,
remember-
Thursday, Friday, we were out of ice by what was noon on Saturday. When we had to go, do emergency, we need ice right now. If it's not 100 and some degrees out, they're not gonna go through as much ice as we went through this year.
Right. That's why we went through, I didn't bring my folder with me, so we talked about 100. The first day, we got 175 bags. They were all 25 pounds or 20 pounds. That's what we started out with. And then we were down to like 25,
20,
30 bags. So then I went out and bought more.
So maybe prior to the show, can we talk to Casey's? Since they're doing Arctic ice overage and say throughout the weekend and weather dependent, and can we have an agreement
do
with
that.
you? Because it's close by also, if we're out of ice,
Yeah.
And he
can
had
you
two
be our
coolers.
destination where we come with the truck and get more ice?
That's that we can do it a couple times a day and minimize our loss. And
You actually wrote down on that sheet, Ryland, how much we really did use. I remember
yeah,
we don't have that right here, but I think
but
we
you're right,
did.
we're gonna reduce the level or maybe even between 20 pounds and 6, but just have them load it up once on bringing it to us with the trailer.
Yeah.
And then we just replenish it as needed.
We'll just have an agreement with Casey's in
Right.
advance.
Casey's got 2 coolers, and the reason they have 2 coolers and he said, we're trying to take care of 5 campgrounds in the area. So they're all coming to his place for ice, so we'll just make him aware of that.
And he doesn't have the health issue. I mean, that ice could sit there for the next
Right.
6 weeks.
It's not changing hands.
It's not gonna be a big
Right.
deal, yeah. So,
Okay.
Okay, contract language, I thought Dana wasn't gonna be here tonight, so I didn't send it out, so.
I'm supposed to be gone right now, but
Okay,
we're almost done, right?
we're done, yeah.
We will, but that will be sent out
We can send it the minutes.
we'll send it with the minutes and then everyone review how we can avoid flag guy.
Let's just put his name in it.
Flag guy, biker gang. Paraphernalia, white supremacy, anything awful that we witnessed this year.
Yeah.
How can we avoid that in the future?
So I was looking, I
we just-
didn't have a first page of the contract.
there's only one page.
Yeah,
Well, there's 2 pages. There's 1 page that's.
The first page is the reservation letter, the second page is the contract.
Is there any way, can you email out a copy of the current contract that we can
Yeah,
review
that's what we're
before the November?
that's what we're gonna do. This is all one page. That's all there is.
Okay, it was a reservation that I.
Terms of agreement.
Yeah.
These are my attempts. Change it, like in tiny, tiny
It's
writing.
3 pages, but that's okay.
You all want the contract now, I can send it to you right now.
3 pages, but we're not letting any of that fly under the radar.
Well, 21 donations, we're planning on having that, right now I only have 1 donation from Pine Island Services. Did we advertise for donations, or I thought people just automatically sent those requests in?
We have not, I haven't done anything, but I certainly can.
What do you mean? Like, people that want to receive funds from the profits of Gold
Yes, I'm
Rush?
sorry, yeah.
We have had one request, I think.
I still have an open, we should discuss when we can definitely do in November. But I still would like for Gold Rush to make some kind of donation to the Century football team and the Pine Island cheer
Dance
team.
Yeah.
My gosh, they
They
were here
worked
every
on
day.
Saturday.
They were here at 6 o'clock in the morning some days. Those vendors that needed them, who are seniors and can't get their
They helped
rigs
with the-
unloaded,
Unloading, yeah.
it was crazy. And granted, a lot of those kids were paid in tips and that went towards their club. But as a committee, they also helped run that entire vendor breakfast. They were here nice and early for that. They did a lot of stuff. They were on the trash trucks, they were walking, doing liners, they were filling holes and gaps, they did ice.
Well, they definitely get a
yeah,
donation,
and
just like
we-
Civil Air Patrol.
Yep, and we definitely will touch base with them again, but pass the word if you know of kids on other teams or other clubs or if they want a fundraising opportunity. That was awesome for Gold Rush. As volunteer coordinator, I would take however many teams want to do stuff like that. That's awesome.
That's great.
And it was good for them.
I think the only one we received from was Pine Island Health.
This is a letter, yeah.
Yeah, I
So
sent it to you.
Is there a specific form that I need to have Jessica fill out asking for that, or we can just talk about that?
Simple
just-
letter.
Okay, I'll just bring it
Yeah.
back in November.
So when do
It's a
we usually-
letter. Yeah, usually sometimes we'll send in a letter and they'll
Letter, an
say,
email or
you know,
something,
we-
some written request.
generic, we enjoyed participating in your show and we would appreciate, you know.
Sure.
Sometimes they name name an amount, but you know,
when, isn't it usually October when that's awarded? So we're gonna wait till.
we're really late this year.
Usually it's discussed in October
Yeah.
and then in November, it's,
Awarded.
yeah.
But we don't have any
It's
money yet to
decided.
do stuff with, so we're gonna get that council money first.
Yeah,
We can't make donations with that
No.
anyway, but
Yeah,
I'll
we have to
bring-
use what we currently have.
right.
I'll bring that letter.
But we can't, I mean, we can disperse what
Yeah,
we
maybe
have,
December before we get it dispersed, but.
right, but we have to know that we have money to operate with
Right.
before we disperse.
Mhm.
Okay, so should we make a plan for that? Like discuss in November, disperse in December?
Yes.
That'd be the safest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Well,
I
is
mean,
that, I mean,
and in the
I-
meantime, do you want me to send out anything on social media or what? What have you done in
I
the
don't remember how we
past?
done in the past. 2 years ago.
I mean, I'll go back and look. and
How do you
see.
advertise that?
I'll go back and look and see if I did. I'll make myself a
It
note.
was oftentimes just in the newsletter. We didn't send out letters to anybody.
The city newsletter.
Yeah, we just said.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
And then, you know, the seniors, oftentimes even Sandy would just write a little note from the seniors, you know, requesting money for such and such. or what-
Churches and
And, you know,
KW,
Okay.
but
this is,
there won't be another newsletter until Christmas now, so.
yeah,
Right.
And my other concern is how much outreach do we do if we don't have the funds to actually
That's-
support the amount of
that's-
donation requests
what I
that
was
come
gonna
in?
say
I don't
too,
wanna have to
Melissa.
go and say, oh, thanks for asking for a donation, but no, we have no money.
we kind of know who we want to give money to
Well,
right
or who you
now.
give to every year, you know, so you can
We
kind
know
of,
we want to hit these kids. We want Civil
Yeah.
Air Patrol. We're gonna
Yes.
give to the seniors if we
The
can.
fireworks and National Night are two
Yeah,
big ones,
right, History Center. I mean,
and that's.
and
none of-
this year did
That's
this,
$9,500.
the city, for the most part, covered their own national night out this year, right?
no.
No, how much
No.
did we give them?
About 2,500.
We did?
2,000.
And then they got, they did a lot of donation. They got a lot of donations
Right.
from
They
local.
did.
I recall that. I'm just I was curious how much were we able to put towards that this year?
But that was again from 2019.
Mhm.
Yeah, in November, I'll send out some previous year donation request and what we sent out, or what we agreed to, I should say.
I kind of agree with you, Melissa. I think we should kind of keep it low key. We know who we
Right.
want to
Okay.
give to. And
I think
I'd
if
rather
they
not
want to
be.
submit or ask for
Yeah.
funds, we sort
And
of
they
sit
know,
back and
and
let
they
them
know,
allow.
right? Like the
Right.
local places, they know.
Yeah.
They know what to do. Okay, so we'll discuss in November and award in December. That's what I'll put in the,
I wish we had more to give,
wow, that is,
but it's a thing.
it is, it's so true.
And what we give is going to be all contingent on what we get from council for operating money.
Correct.
Okay, so just want to jump back to, we mentioned earlier about realignment of lots. You know, we're looking at, I think, 60 lots. We have lots around that follow the alleyway along in the pines. And then we also have the ones that are not in the right of way in the church parking lot. Between the two of those, I think it's like 61 or 66 lots. So we need to decide, and those are the ones with big furnitures and things like that, but we need to talk, you know, start looking at discussing how many we want to bring into the D&E lots
All of them.
and
I
where
think
else
for
we want to put lots.
the
Yeah,
main
post office.
concern that I have for people that are in the parking lot are the folks that have the big furniture. We need to make sure that they either have asphalt.
Mhm.
Because they do want a flat spot, but for some of them, the bigger concern is that they have a flat, a solid surface and that they're not on the grass. So as
Yep.
long as we can locate,
Which I think we can do between the basketball court
yes,
and then, this is my home, I think we mentioned it last time, between Penny and Carol, like Penny's house here.
Mhm.
And then Mitch and Peltzer's, old Mitch, I still call it that, that's not who lives there, obviously. That whole road does not need to be used as a road. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's just things we can think of, because you can get to them other. You know, you can get to those homes and emergency can get around, so just like, we can use different paved surfaces than we currently are, I think.
so if we, because there are so many lots in D&E that we can fill, that we can relocate. And I love the idea of using the basketball court for some of that flat space. The only thing that would be left then truly on the east side of Minnesota Avenue is kind of the short distance between the post office and going down to the church on the south end of the post office. And then the block or so that's just directly across from the fire department that goes down to the Pines. Those would be the only two sections of off streets on the east side that would have vendors on them if we were to not use the Pines or the parking lot.
So
So are we,
we still have the right of ways
But we're not gonna,
in front of the church. We still have Second Street right of ways, which are
Right.
flagged. We can move those individual smaller vendors.
I'm just trying to wrap
down.
my head around like
Yeah.
how many are over there? If we're gonna, how many do we leave over there if we're not gonna do Pines or the parking lot? Does it make sense to leave
Mhm.
8 guys on this street and 8 guys on this street and the whole rest of the show is over here? They're not gonna like that.
Well, let's wait until we get
With
what
the
we're doing
furniture,
with the
still keep them
sewer,
in the
and then
parking
we're
lot.
gonna decide it.
Right,
Yeah,
Right
we,
away, so-
we can't do much right yet.
no, I'm just
Okay.
saying if we're talking about eliminating, not eliminating, but consolidating
Yeah.
those larger, much more dense kind of areas over there, over here. I just want to be careful that we're not leaving, you
We
know,
aren't gonna
just,
leave anybody high and dry.
right,
no.
15 guys on that side and everybody else is over here. I want to be careful
Because
of
like
that.
on the east side of the Pines, we can still use it right of ways on 3 sides.
Mhm.
But we don't want to bank on right of ways until we see that schedule.
We can't do
What's
anything.
changing?
We can't do anything yet till we get that
Yeah.
sewer
For the
scheduled.
construction.
Well, because right away, because the right of ways, you're saying people can hook up. So we don't want to base it on somebody hooking up during that time either. Like, we don't want
And the
to,
majority of the city property would be on the west side, would be the safe side. I mean, D and E,
I know, I don't know.
But behind the post office, behind the post office, that alley
Right.
is blacktop.
right, that's what he's talking
So,
about.
Yeah,
Right.
but that, I mean, we could just use all that.
And move it this direct, just
Right.
tighten it up around the,
That'd be an
Post
easier
office.
street to shut off
Right,
if we had to.
right.
Yeah.
What was it?
I think it's lightning.
No way.
Is it a light?
oh,
Oh. I've been seeing it
Sorry.
too. All right, peeps, I have to roll. Do you want to finish or we,
Yeah, let's just, I think
or
we'll talk about
or
this.
you
too.
can continue,
So I
but,
think, yeah,
okay.
That's not the right time, is it?
Yeah.
Quarter to 9?
No,
no,
it's not,
no,
7:17.
7:17.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to finish up by 7:30, so.
Okay, I've
it's
gotta
not so
go.
late either.
Bye.
Ryland, you'll finish. I'll send you whatever to finish up, okay? Thank you. Apologize, guys.
We're okay, we still have 4 of us to close, right? We don't,
So,
we gotta close, because if she goes, we don't have enough people.
Oh, God.
we got 4,
I'm for,
we got a committee of 9, so 4 is a quorum.
yeah, but I
1,
can't
2,
leave.
3, 4.
Oh,
I'm not counting myself. I'm looking at you.
4 is
Yeah, there's still
quorum?
4.
Are you sure? Isn't it 5 a quorum?
Well, it's 9,
4.
it'll be 4,
Sorry,
I
I
think.
wasn't. Oh God, should we look it up?
Yes, Siri.
All right, well, you guys choose that, decide that, and I'm gonna go to the bathroom, but I'm.
So, so for November, maybe we should start. Carol and I can come back with some numbers for you of lots. And maybe some maps and just start talking about how we can move.
It's 5.
It is 5.
60%.
Well, I
Quorum
guess-
of 9 would be 60% is 5.
yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure we
Do the best.
close if she's gonna
She
leave.
earned her money tonight, didn't she?
Mm.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I think so.
I think those are, in January, our meeting will move upstairs because the township is gonna take this room over. They start at 6:30, I think. Sometimes 5:30. But we're gonna move upstairs for that, so we don't have to change the night.
Did anybody double check to make sure that the Wi-Fi works up there in case we need to have call-ins or no? We don't necessarily need a screen. We just need to be able to have probably a laptop with a
We
camera.
need to check that out.
Okay.
Check Wi-Fi. The worst case, we have to use somebody's Wi hotspot.
Right,
Did we
And
use
the
yours?
Wi-Fi is right
What do we owe
on
you
the other
for
side
that?
of that.
I can imagine it wouldn't, but you don't know in these brick buildings. I don't know if our old age. It should.
But we have a fallback with the hotspot, but hopefully
We
that
get charged extra.
That's good.
upstairs.
I always went over my data.
We have a lot. and we
It is 5.
Because we pretty much use.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second, Lizzie.
Thank you, guys.
You're not here.
I appreciate it.
Still here.
All in favor?
Aye.
So as soon as we get those minutes and copy, and that's what we need.
So-
Just remember.
Everybody leaves. For those that can stay. We have appreciation for Carol.
Oh, no.
Yay.
And Carol, I promise I would
Eric
stay.
can't leave.
I'm gonna take you out for lunch instead, okay?
Oh, you guys shouldn't do anything. It's not like I'm going anywhere. So,
You can't go anywhere.
yeah, I'm not going anywhere yet, so.
Yeah, but we have to celebrate.
Right. It's always time to celebrate. Why would you say no to a celebration?
Yeah, what's different about?
We appreciate it.
Yeah, we can always party. Okay.
Okay, good. I don't feel like I missed so much last meeting then.
We talked about the stuff.
Oh, jeez.
What we learned.
Oh, Lynn. Are you, oh my goodness, look at all that cake.
Wow.
You guys.
Oh. This is for you.
Thank you. Oh my, look at how good these smell. Oh my goodness. Well, I think we better eat then. My goodness, thank you guys so much. It's really nice of you all. Visit if you can bring. Can you eat this, Kevin?
No, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. This is all for you.
Here, oh, you got your cooler?
Let's, wait, turn it around here. Okay,
You want it facing me, sure, I understand.
there we go. There we go.
Can't hold up.
Oh,
Are we still recording? I hope so. Oh, yes, we are.
I almost saw my life.
I didn't let
my
her
eyes.
carry that in. That's slidey, oh, big time.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
On her 85th birthday, she's gonna hold it up to the picture. It slid right off the damn table, onto the floor, upside down, boom.
Oh my
No, we're
goodness.
fine.
And she just sat there.
Okay,
I don't think, I don't know, I didn't
Oh, my
even
goodness.
notice it, usually I do, but.
yeah. Oh, yeah, you can end it.
Well, thank you guys so much.